So as you may already know, Battlefield Bad Company is by far one of my favorite games of all time. Now in my last video, I went over the ways in which Bad Company had sort of changed the Battlefield franchise, and in that video, I touched on the multiplayer as well as the single player campaign. So if you didn't watch that video, make sure to do so. But in that video, I had said that I could make literally an entire video about the campaign of the game alone, and more specifically the characters. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing today. This analysis will dive into how these characters, along with the game's nuanced storyline and humor, create a very distinctive player experience that sets it far above the standards for military shooters. Now, let me just preface this by first saying that this video will obviously contain spoilers for the story of the game, but I also want to make it clear that the focus of this video is going to be on the sort of finer details of the game's campaign as opposed to more of like an introduction to or summary of it. So that being said, if you're not familiar with Bad Company, I strongly urge you to play the game if you're able to, so that not only are you able to better understand this analysis, but also because it's just a fucking really good game. Let's first begin with the main protagonist of the game and the character that we play as, Private Preston Marlowe. Now, Preston is the newest recruit to the 222nd Army Battalion, more commonly known as B Company or Bad Company. Coming from a line of war vets, his father was a helicopter pilot in the Vietnam War, and his grandfather fought in the European theater of World War II. Now, Preston joins the army expecting to get right into the action on the front lines of the war, but is soon disappointed with the lack of orders. Eventually, through his mutually acquainted helicopter pilots obtained by his dad, Preston got his hands on a UH-60 Blackhawk. Now, it didn't last long though, because he quickly sends the rotor of the chopper right through the general's limousine. So he's taken into custody and soon transferred to B Company. In the beginning of the campaign, you'll quickly notice that he is very eager to make a good first impression by really adhering to authority, and honestly kind of comes off as borderline subservient. While he remains obedient to his direct superior throughout the campaign, this behavior evolves to become far more pragmatic as the story goes on. He's still following orders from Sarge and complying with the group's direction, even as they stray from official orders. He doesn't question much, which could be a bad thing, but honestly to me, more so displays his loyalty to the squad, especially when you take into consideration how poorly they're treated by the army. Now that being said, throughout the campaign, he's also pretty timid. This is exactly why for me, it's hard to find a favorite moment with Preston, because as a result, he really doesn't have much dialogue or big impacts on plot lines the same way the other characters do. That's probably the only thing I can say that I'm not particularly fond of with this campaign, and I can pretty confidently say that other than that, I don't really have any gripes at all. I just think it's a little unfortunate that they really only use Preston as a sort of vessel for the player to play the game and not much more beyond that. Obviously, he plays an important role in the overall dynamic of the game and characters, but I just wish they added a little bit more depth to his character and allowed him to participate in the dialogue more. Now, I understand that being that he is literally the character that we play as, it could be hard and probably a little bit overwhelming to add as much detail to his character as the others, but I just wish that there was at least a little bit more than what we got. None of that is to say though that he isn't still a very important character in the overall story of the game. He's the most level-headed and sensible of the group, often acting as the sort of counterweight to the chaos of the rest of the unit, and without him it really might not highlight those specific qualities of the campaign and the other characters. Now, what comes to mind for me when I think of a moment where Preston really stands out is in the first mission on the level Crash and Grab, where after having crash landed President Serdar's helicopter, he finds himself all alone with his squad nowhere to be found. And it's at this point that he has to figure out how to not only find his way back to the guys, but fight his way through huge hordes of enemies to do so, all alone with little to no help from the army. Overall, I think the whole new guy trope fits in really well with this game because, like I said, it not only better highlights some of the more chaotic plot elements, but it also allows us to pay attention more closely to how he progresses throughout the game. Now, throughout the first bit of the game, the rest of the squad struggles to remember his name, often referring to him as just the new guy. But some ways into Actin on Verba, you'll notice they start using his actual name. It's details like this that adds so much to the game, but you really wouldn't notice unless you were looking for them. Like, I didn't notice that, and there's a lot of other details like that that I didn't notice until I was making this video and actually looking out for them. Now, to speak more to his progression throughout the game, at the very end of the campaign, after taking down the Legionnaires' helicopter and basically securing the gold for the army, this is what the squad has to say.
Hey, you're actually starting to pull your weight in this squad.
Heck yeah, you can watch my back any day.
Yeah, not bad for a new guy.
Well, guys,
Hey, let's just get back to the gold.
it's been great to finally become a part of
It's pretty funny because it's obvious they're being sarcastic and have thought that for a while, but none of them are really ones to like vocalize that kind of stuff, so it's really heartwarming to see them actually validate his importance in that way. Furthermore, right after this cutscene, the squad discovers that the gold is being loaded into US Army trucks to be transported out of Cadiz. Obviously, being that they're quite literally AWOL, it's probably not the best idea to be seen by the military. However, they do end up getting spotted, and it's at this moment that we see possibly for the first time Preston finally come out of his shell, take initiative, and make a decision for the group.
Soldiers, what are you waiting for?
Sir, we're a group of highly, embedded...
Sir, the area's secure.
Just waiting for new orders, sir.
Take that truck and follow the convoy.
Moving on to probably the second most sane character of the squad, Sergeant Samuel D. Redford, most commonly known as Sarge. As the squad's leader, it's his role to lead the group through whatever show they definitely didn't sign up for. He volunteered to lead the unit in exchange for a reduced time in the military so he could retire sooner. At the beginning of the game, it's revealed that he only had 3 days left of service before retirement. On his last day though, after Haggard single-handedly invades the neutral country of Sardaristan in pursuit of gold, the squad gets court-martialed and his term is extended. And throughout the 2 games, you'll find that it seemingly always is. He's incredibly tough and pragmatic and takes his work very, very seriously. His dry sense of humor not only helps balance the team's reckless behavior similar to Preston, but it also adds even more dynamic to Sweetwater and Haggard's hilarious relationship. He often exhibits a very harsh and emotionless exterior the majority of the time, but few moments actually show that he secretly does care very deeply for the squad. A very good example of this comes at the turning point of the campaign. Before then, he's very by the book, frequently reminding the squad why they're there. Once Haggard recklessly invades Sardaristan though, we witness a very pivotal moment where not only does he cover for Haggard and take full responsibility for the invasion, but he also decides that after being court-martialed, he's going to go AWOL with the squad in pursuit of gold, thus setting the stage for the remainder of the campaign.
Bravo 1 Charlie, this is Mike 1 Juliet, over.
Mike 1 Juliet, this is Bravo 1 Charlie, over.
I hope you have a very good explanation for this, Sergeant, over.
It was my call. We had to, retaliate a hostile. A threat. Over.
Just get yourselves back to base, over.
That's fine with me. I was planning to go fishing anyway. Over.
You're facing court-martial. I don't think you're gonna go anywhere for at least 9 to 12 months. Out.
Shit.
That was bad, wasn't it? That was bad.
It's bad, Hags. It's about as bad as anything we've ever done. Whatever you've done, it's as bad as that.
Not like Chris Christopherson's 3rd album.
Oh, bad. Worse.
No way!
Let me think.
So, where does this leave us?
We're here, ain't we?
What?
Where'd those trucks go?
Oh, no, Sarge, you can't be serious!
Yes, I am.
What? You want to go after the gold?
I'll never get any metal from the army, will I?
You guys coming or what?
This moment shows through to that part of Sarge that is very protective of his squad, one that isn't often recognized in this way. Now this is a great moment, but perhaps my favorite of all for Sarge is in the beginning of Acta Non Verba when they've just discovered the body of one of the Legionnaires and Sweetwater is basically explaining the group's motto, that being obviously Acta Non Verba, Latin for actions not words.
Now look at this. Acta non verba. That's the Legionnaire's motto. It's Latin, and it means action, not words.
Hang on, I was at the Taco Emporium. I think you'll find that Spanish.
Oh, just shut up. Then your motto should be verba non acta, because you never shut the hell up.
Next, there's Private Terrence Sweetwater, usually referred to as Sweetwater. Known for his intelligence and technical expertise, he's often the one to figure out the more complex problems involving technology and tactics. He's got no shortage of random bits of knowledge that somehow always find themselves being useful. But from what we know, he's from New Jersey, evident by his very thick accent, and he transferred to Bad Company for accidentally uploading a virus to the Army's secure network. Apart from basically acting as Haggard's little brother, he frequently tries to make passes at the squad's mission commander, Mike 1 Juliet. His personality contrasts with the more action-oriented members of the squad, namely Haggard. He tends to be very cautious, sarcastic, and extremely nerdy, providing comedic relief through his witty banter. Not to discredit his quick wit and ability to make the player laugh, but his dynamic with Haggard is honestly, in my opinion, what really highlights those moments. Despite his reluctance for combat, he nonetheless is a very essential member of the team. Now, this is very evident to me when, in a mission during Acta Non Verba, he points out a Russian mortar guiding system that we end up using to cut off enemy access to a bridge near Zabergrad.
Zabergrab a ding dong!
This proves to be a very important moment of the mission, and one that could have gone a lot worse had Sweets not had the knowledge of what the device was. And there's a bunch of other moments like this too throughout the campaign where Sweet's knowledge of things like that really proved to help the team and the army overall. By far, my favorite moments of Sweetwater's though are when he shows his just absolute naked obsession with Michael and Juliet. Perhaps my favorite of all though is when he says this.
Things got a little hectic up here. Over.
Yeah, well, they're pretty hectic down here, too.
I can hear you, Sweetwater, but you're doing a fine job. Over.
She knows my name.
Focus, boys. Focus.
I just find it so funny because it's like, I would hope that your mission commander would know your name, but you know, whatever. I'll give the guy a break. And finally, saving the very best for last, there's Haggard, more formally known as Private George Gordon Haggard Jr., my absolute favorite character in the entire game. Haggard acts as the demolitions expert of the squad, often responsible for handling explosives and causing or influencing mass destruction during missions. He's very loud, impulsive, and has an extremely deep love for seeing things blow up.
I just like it when stuff blows up.
Now, from what we know, Haggard is a rural southern boy whose parents own a farm back home. He was transferred to B Company after supposedly blowing up the biggest ammo dump east of Paris with a claymore. He's the primary source of comedic relief, and in my opinion, he is by far the most important aspect of the campaign. His invasion into Sardaristan is quite literally what sets up the conflict of the entire campaign. This moment really highlights his impulsiveness and blinding obsession for gold. I honestly don't think I could pick a favorite moment for Haggard. Every time he speaks throughout the campaign, it's just seriously pure gold. No matter the situation, you can always count on him to make light of it and provide a much needed sense of comfort and humor in the midst of war. If I had to pick though, it has to be, of course, the Truckosaurus Rex. Haggard mentions the Truckosaurus Rex several times throughout the campaign, and he first mentions it in the very first mission of the game.
I could sure use a break from all this walking. Why don't we try to find some ride?
Oh yeah, we could get one of those monster trucks, like Truckosaurus Rex. I bet that surprised like hell out of those Russians.
And his last mention of it is when the squad is driving off with the gold at the very end of the campaign.
Truckosaurus Rex, here I come!
Next to Sweetwater and Michael and Juliet, this is a love story in the Bad Company franchise that seriously could make a grown man cry. There really is so many moments though that come to mind with Haggard. I've rarely been able to come across video game characters that are even close to being as funny as Haggard, if I'm being honest. He really is just the true root of the game's humor. Now this is a topic I hammered on several times in my last video, and I probably will again in this one, but humor plays arguably the most critical role in the campaign. Without it, to be honest, it probably wouldn't make much sense, but it also would be completely one-dimensional and bland. Now don't get me wrong, it still would likely be a very enjoyable game, but the importance of humor to the entire plot is very much worth noting. Never have I seen a military shooter do it quite the way Bad Company did, and honestly I don't think we ever will. Bad Company to me is like if The Hangover had a baby with Call of Duty, and was probably a little bit more PG, but that's besides the point. What I find so amazing too is that despite the comedic undertones of the entire story, somehow they still manage to balance it with more serious and grim moments. Like when Preston finds himself alone in the middle of Russia after crashing the helicopter and has to find his way back to the squad, or even at the very end of the campaign when, despite what we may have thought, this dude's not dead. That shit scared the fuck out of me when I was little, dude. I think it's pretty obvious at this point the level of love I have for this game. Everything about it too, there's just so few games that hold that much weight for me. That being said though, I think my absolute favorite mission of the entire game has to be par for the course. After Haggard invades Sardaristan, the army gives the squad a sort of get out of jail free card since they had already been suspicious of the country and were just really itching to get a closer look. So they order us to find and capture the leader, President Sardar. We're sent to invade his palace only to find him playing golf, as if the sounds of World War III aren't literally on his doorstep. Michael and Juliet supplies us with a laser designator.
A big ugly flashlight. She drops a big ugly flashlight. Why did she drop this?
It's a laser designator, meathead.
Which we're able to use to blow a whole bunch of shit up, Predator missile style. You have the option of driving around on golf carts, which are for some reason insanely fast.
I know what I'm doing. This is a shortcut. You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
If I had a penny for every time you said that, I wouldn't be needing this gold.
And once we end up finding Sardar and our extraction is denied, we end up getting to fly around in a sick-ass, pimped-out gold chopper. Plus, President Sardar is just funny as shit and interacts with the squad in such a hilarious way. Absolutely by far the best level of the game. Now, overall, having said all of that, to the three of you still here, first of all, what the hell are you doing here? You're probably wondering what my favorite part of the game is as a whole. You can probably guess what I'm going to say here. It's the fact that the game doesn't take itself too seriously. Now, at the time, and even today, honestly, military shooters, especially Battlefield, were so serious. And don't get me wrong, those games are great games, but Bad Company to me was like the M&M in a handful of trail mix. Everything else is great, but sometimes all you want is a little something sweet now and again. Bad Company was that something sweet. It's a game I can return to no matter how I'm feeling, what mood I'm in, no matter how many times I play it, I never get tired of it. It's literally like watching one of my favorite movies. And one final thing I want to touch on here, as I was making this video, I asked you guys to let me know some of your thoughts on the game, things like your favorite memories and moments, favorite character, mission, all that kind of stuff. Not a Clown 23 here says their favorite character is Haggard, of course, and they find the part where he forgets your name and his obsession with the Truckosaurus Rex amusing. They point out one of the many times in the beginning of the game where Haggard volunteers Preston to basically just check out whatever's a little too sketchy, and they say their favorite missions are probably Welcome to Bad Company, Acta Non Verba, and Par for the Course. Definitely my top 3 as well. So yeah, that's about it. I really hope you enjoyed watching as much as I did making it, mostly just because it gave me an excuse to play through the game for like the millionth time. If you guys are interested in more Bad Company videos, perhaps getting into the details of the second game, don't hesitate to let me know. Anything else you guys want to see too on the channel is of course always welcomed. Before I go though, I wanted to remind you guys that I do have a Discord server, so if you'd like a chance to connect with me or other members of the community, the link will be there for you in the description. There you'll have access to special perks and rewards, like access to exclusive content or a shout out in a video. And with that said, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.